In war, armies move in the open. They advance across fields. They collide at borders. They leave behind maps filled with arrows and lines. But not all wars are fought where you can see them. Some are fought in silence, in whispers, in shadows, in occupied towns where the enemy believes they are in control. In 1944, as Allied forces prepared to return to Europe, a different kind of soldier was already on the move. They would not land on beaches. They would not wear unit patches. They would not fight as armies. They would fall from the sky, into the dark, into enemy territory, 3 men at a time. This was Operation Jedburgh, and this is War Files, uncovered. By 1944, Nazi Germany controlled vast portions of Europe, France, Belgium, the Netherlands. The German war machine depended on these territories. Railways moved troops and supplies, communication lines linked command centers. Occupied cities fed the front lines. From above, Allied bombers could strike infrastructure, but from within, the system remained intact. The Allies faced a problem. Even if they invaded France, German reinforcements could arrive faster than they could be stopped, unless something disrupted the system from the inside. The answer came from a new kind of warfare, not conventional, not visible. The United States and Britain created organizations built for the unseen war. The Office of Strategic Services, the Special Operations Executive. Their mission was simple: set Europe on fire. But fire needed direction. The resistance existed, scattered, brave, but fragmented. What they needed was coordination, leadership, communication. They needed someone to bring the war to them and turn it into something larger. Operation Jedburgh teams were small by design. 3 men, a commander, an executive officer, a radio operator. Often, each came from a different country: American, British, French. They carried radios, weapons, explosives, gold for funding resistance. But more importantly, they carried authority. When a Jedburgh team arrived, they didn't just fight, they organized. The missions began with a fall. At night, aircraft crossed into occupied territory. Below them, darkness. No lights, no signals, no certainty. The jump zones were often improvised: a field, a forest clearing, sometimes the wrong location entirely. Men disappeared into the night, landing in territory controlled by the enemy. From that moment forward, they were alone. Once on the ground, survival depended on contact. Local resistance groups, the Maquis, operated in secrecy, but they were not always organized, not always unified. Jedburgh teams had to gain trust quickly, identify leaders, avoid infiltration by collaborators. A mistake meant exposure, and exposure meant death. Once contact was made, the real work began. Jedburgh teams transformed scattered fighters into coordinated units. They organized sabotage missions, planned ambushes, coordinated supply drops, established communication networks. They turned resistance into force, and that force began to reshape the battlefield. The targets were not random. They were precise. Rail lines were cut, bridges destroyed, convoys ambushed, German logistics began to fracture, trains stopped moving, orders arrived late, or not at all. The war slowed, and in war, delay is defeat. The Germans responded. Gestapo units hunted resistance fighters. Radio signals were traced. Villages were interrogated. Jedburgh teams became high-value targets. Capture meant interrogation, and interrogation rarely ended well, so they moved constantly, never staying long, never becoming predictable, living one step ahead of discovery. When D-Day began, the Jedburgh teams were already in place. Behind German lines, the war erupted. Railways were destroyed simultaneously. Communication lines severed, reinforcements delayed. German commanders faced chaos. They could not move freely. They could not respond effectively. The invasion was no longer just on the beaches, it was everywhere. Operation Jedburgh proved something critical. War is not always won by size. It can be shaped by precision. 3 men could disrupt entire divisions. A single radio could coordinate hundreds of fighters. A single mission could delay an army. When the war ended, many Jedburgh operatives disappeared back into civilian life. Their missions had been secret, their actions often undocumented. There were no parades for covert war, only quiet acknowledgement and memory. Operation Jedburgh was not a battle you could see. There were no front lines, no mass formations, only small teams moving through occupied land, turning resistance into power. They did not fight for territory. They fought for disruption, and in doing so, they helped reshape the war. This was Operation Jedburgh, the war behind enemy lines, and this is War Files Uncovered.